On today's episode of Locked On Avalanche, who doesn't love a good rumor? Well, we have a nice, big, juicy one right here for you. Let's talk about it. I don't know if it's going to happen, but it's fun. Stay tuned. Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in and making this your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. Make sure you're following us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, X, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram and Threads. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And follow us on our YouTube channel. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live. And make sure you subscribe to our subtext as well. Link to that's in the show notes below. And when you do chat with Kyle and I one-on-one, we get your opinion, everything Avalanche related, which we share on this very podcast. Like we will do a little bit later. We got some listener questions from them that we will answer. And I don't know about you, but if you can't hear it in my voice, I got the September back to school cold or whatever every single September when the kids go back to school. And then they interact with their classmates and all that crap that they bring home. Sending them with me right now.
Oh, yeah. I was at a theme park today with my children and everybody else going back to school, and I could just feel it in the air. Sickness is coming.
You are on a 48-hour watch right now, sir, because it's going to be hitting you hard. All right. Well, where we're going to jump in today is, like I said in the opening, there's a rumor floating around there. That's exactly what it is. Let's just put that out there right now. It's just a rumor, and it's just, I think, for if nothing else, it's just for a website maybe to just get some talking going amongst people like us, like podcast hosts and things like that. But it involves the Avalanche and the Boston Bruins. And if you think you know where this is going, you probably do. Jeremy Swayman of the Boston Bruins and they've not been able to come to a contract resolution for him. He's a restricted free agent. They just seem so far apart. I guess Swayman wants in the $10 million a year range, and the Bruins are a little bit, or maybe like half of that, maybe around like 6.5 is what I'm hearing. So they seem to be far apart. Do I think they're going to get together and hammer this thing out? I kind of do. I never really have thought that he's going to go anywhere, especially if they traded their backup goalie to Ottawa, right? Like he is their guy. They traded him because the Swayman is their guy. They didn't want to go this back and forth 1-1A type of thing. So Swayman is their guy, and I just feel like it's going to get worked out. But that doesn't stop stuff like this from coming around. And we all know the goalie issues that the Avalanche have had, and this is the trade that's been thrown out there. So in return, the Bruins would get Georgiev and Samuel Girard. So that's I'm sure maybe there's some other things at play here, but that is the meat of what this trade proposal is on this site. I think it's NHLTradeRumors.com is what it's on.
That's exactly the site.
Yeah. So there's reasons why to say like for this to raise your eyebrows and be like, oh, okay, maybe. And there's other reasons to be like, no, I don't think so. So I'm more on the no, I don't think so in the grand scheme of it, no. But again, kind of fun to discuss stuff like this. So what do you think?
Yeah, when I saw this rumor, I said, hold on, Fleetwood Mac, let's give me some meat here. Give me some what we going on? What's going on here? And then you look at this conversation that Swayman's having with the Bruins, and you're right. They traded out their backup to make this happen. I never felt like this wasn't going to happen, but the more you go on through this story and the buzz that's kind of going around it, giving up Georgiev and Sam Girard to get Swayman, who still is like he's balked at 6.5 so far. Mm-hmm. And that's honestly rich for what the Avs pay for goalies. But between Girard and offloading Georgiev, that's about a $10 million cap relief
Right.
in a roundabout way.
You're
And
right.
then
Right.
you're asking yourself two questions here when it comes to this rumor and this possibility. I don't know how much percentage possibility there is, but is it time the Avalanche pay for a goalie?
Right. Yeah.
And is
Right.
do the Boston Bruins want Georgiev and Sam Girard?
The thing that's funny that you say that, because I don't think they'd be against Georgiev, but I also don't think like that'd be a long-term solution for them.
No.
But I don't think they would want Sam Girard because he doesn't fit their mold. He doesn't fit their style. You think of Bruins defenders, you think of bruiser defenders, you
Yeah.
think tall guy, like built like defenders. He's not that. So I just feel like, that for the Bruins side of things, I think the Bruins say no to this because Georgiev is not, I don't say he's not Swayman, but we don't really know what we got from Jeremy Swayman yet, because like he's still young and should he be commanding $9.5-10 million right now? No, but he wants that. He's sticking to his guns. He's just trying to get as much as he can right now. I don't see that happening. You're right on the front with the Avalanche. Like, is it time for them to throw their eggs into a basket of a goalie and have to spend a little bit more money on that? I think they answered that with what they did in the draft.
You're absolutely correct.
So that's for the future,
Yes,
right?
they
They're
will,
gonna
but in
pay
time.
that,
Yeah.
right? They're gonna pay that if this works out in the Nabokov in the future. So they want to do it through their own choices and through their own picks and have him be that guy. But if the Bruins came to them and say, "Hey, we do this," like, and you can move that timeline along and have the faith that Jeremy Swayman can do that, then you've moved that timeline up 3-4 years, right? So would you do it? And is this a reason why the Avs brought in a lot of defenders this offseason at low costs? Because you can't replace Sam Girard as far as his number. You can't do that. So you'd have to replace him in his roster spot with one of these several guys that you got at a very low number, and that is a risk too, right? So there's a lot of moving parts here where you're like, hey, that doesn't make sense, but it does make sense in the same. I think it makes a lot more sense for the Avalanche than it does the Bruins. I'll say that.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head right there, and you briefly mentioned it, but I think the Avs, and I think it's the overarching narrative that's behind the curtain that honestly Avs fans aren't really talking about right now. All these 1.1 year, $1.21 million deals, the PTOs that we talked about on Friday's episode with Pebbles coming back. The Avs have set themselves up, and through the draft, to have a surplus of things to take care of whatever happens with Landy and Nuke. They have things to fix, and you can see kind of like where the future lies in the forwards and what pieces they can add there. The same with defense when it comes to not just Girard, but possibly Josh Manson, who was floated around for a little bit when in the offseason about like potential trade targets. His name came up for a little bit. And they have a surplus of one year, one per guys that can fill that spot to get you to the trade deadline. And they have goalie futures that they can bank on, where if they have to make this deal, do they feel confident enough to ride with Eustace to the trade deadline or till this future could play out? Or do they go out and finally get a goalie and say, this is our guy. We're going to ride this for 2 to 3 years until Nabokov finally gets NHL seasoned and then bring him up?
Yeah.
Like we talk about putting a team together, but the Avs are prepared for so many things, however they need to handle them when it's the forwards and the two contracts we have talked about probably every episode since the season ended last year, and defense with two names that could be potential trade targets to get this team cap compliant.
Yeah, I just don't know how the Avs would make it work cap wise when you if he wants that much.
Yeah.
And you the way that you're going about business is you're giving your high value contracts to your forwards and your top defensemen. You don't have enough room to add a goalie to that mix. You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't seem feasible for the Avalanche to do it unless you offload some contracts. Sam Girard would have to be one of them, or Manson would have to be one of them. And then you're just getting into what you're doing at the goalie position of trying to find value at a low dollar amount. You're going to now have to do for a second pairing on defense, or you're going to have to transfer what you're doing with the goalie position and trying to find the value at the low dollar to another position. And I think the Avs are happy doing it the way that they're doing it with the goalie position.
And
I don't think they want to load up a lot of money into that position. They just don't want to do it.
And quickly to wrap it up, another thing we haven't talked about, the other animal in the room, it's not an elephant, it's a moose. And why would you be paying $10 million for somebody else's RFA when you have one that you need to sign?
Very true. It's fun, though. It's fun. We shall see. Do I think it's going to happen? I'll never say 100% to nothing. So maybe there's like a 0.1% chance that this happens, but I can't see it happening. But like I said, it's fun to talk about, and I'm sure there's going to be comments going like crazy in the comment section as we are reviewing this episode. Yeah.
And at this point of the year, everybody's right.
Exactly. All right, let's get our first break in, and we come back. Brief talk on the rookie camp, and then we got some questions here from our listeners that we're going to get to as well. So we're going to do that right after this. All right, first let's hear from FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel. That's America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you now through September 22nd. All FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. As far as our picks went this week, I think we went one. No, did you win your? I won my pick. I picked the Buccaneers, and they won straight out. I think they were getting 7.5, and they won. And then we both picked the Broncos to win, which we lost that one. So I went another 1-1 this week.
1-1 for me.
All right, and then we have FanDuel reads all week, so we'll get to our picks for this week on Friday. But for now, you can get that 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game, and all you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and download America's #1 sportsbook today. All right, so Avs rookies are in action right now, and this show is out on Monday, which I believe is the last game of their rookie camp. So they played 2 over the weekend, lost both of those. I'm just gonna say this, Kyle. Like, I don't get that excited for the rookie camp. The only thing that gets me excited is that it's kind of like the beginning of that hockey is back type, those type of things. It gets you like, okay, you see the Avalanche jersey, it's out there, it's on a sheet of ice, but the coverage of it stinks. The camera angles, it's one camera angle, and it's behind the protective netting, so you can't even the focus is constantly going in and out. It's so low to the ice, it's tough to keep track of who's out there. It's just the way it's presented, it's not the best. And it just takes me right out of it. And if you're not there, I just don't get that excited. Like, yeah, it's fun. It's exciting to see some of your prospects that you're hoping that can make the actual roster this year. But by and large, it's just, it doesn't do anything. You get so excited when you hear about it. And then when the games come, you're like, oh yeah, like I can't follow what the heck is going on because this camera angle stinks.
Yeah, I'm very sorry we didn't lead the episode with, what are the Avs going to do now down 0-2 in this rookie face-off?
That's the other thing,
yeah. It's not going to be like that. It's nice to see guys like Poland and Callum Ritchie doing what they're supposed to do. Right. Like seeing Ivan like make a name for himself and really solidify himself. Like, hey, this is a legit thing, not just a cool little like fun thing, memeable thing from juniors that carried over to the Avs. Like, he's got a legitimate chance to make this team. That's all well and good. Nobody cares about the score. nobody really cares about the game halfway through because, again, like the presentation is aggravating.
Yeah.
But it's good to see hockey is back
Right.
and nature is healing, and we're getting there. But like the Avs losing to like the Ducks and the Kraken, they just got out jerseyed. Like
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Yeah, that's totally what it is, right? No, it's like I want to see the guys that you named are the ones that are kind of like standing out. Like Callum
Yep.
Ritchie's standing out. You expect him to. Ivan seems to be having a really good couple games so far. Great. So I'm looking at that. Like who are the guys that are kind of making their name here? And what do they? I'll be watching those guys at the next phase, which is
Mhm.
training camp and NHL preseason. Because when you have like rookies going up against rookies, you should have those guys that are your top prospects standing out. And it seems like right now that's what they're doing for the Avs. And as far as like the score goes, we can all sit here and say we don't care because they lost both those games. But if they had won both those games, we're like, our prospects are back, baby. Our
We're winning
prospect.
the Stanley
What
Cup.
are you talking about? The Athletic 31st in the league? What are you talking about? We just won 2 games at a rookie tournament. Like, no, but because we lost both of them, we'll spin it to be like, oh, they don't matter that much. And whether win or lose, they don't matter that much. But because they lost both of them, you're seeing a lot of Avalanche shows be like, it doesn't matter. And they're right, it doesn't. But so the guys that are it's kind of head and shoulders above everybody else in the rookie pool, let's go to the next stage and I'll watch you at that and see how much we're progressing.
And honestly, like you referenced that Athletic article, like this is kind of refreshing for Avs fans that the guys that are supposed to be good are good. Congratulations, Avs fans. This is nice. This is wonderful. This is something to look forward to. But no, this is what you want to see. And yeah, if we would have won those 2 games, we would have entitled this episode "The Future is Bright," and we would have talked about our Stanley Cup window for the next 5 years.
We did get a question from McKinnon29.
Nice of them to message the show.
Yeah, thanks, Nate. Said, what's your thoughts on my future teammate Sean Behrens? What do you think of his development? Do you think the Avs have a hidden gem in Behrens, or could he potentially be another contributor or key player in the making? I like Sean Behrens. I think he's one of those guys where, because he's a second round pick, right? Mm-hmm. So he's one of those guys where we all love your team's picks. I always go to the Sampo Ranta thing here because we all felt we had a steal in Sampo Ranta in the 3rd round, and now he's not even with the team anymore.
I still have his jersey over there.
You do? Please. Yeah. I have an Eagles jersey of him right over there. Yeah. So like I think Behrens has NHL games in him. I do. Like his size is a little bit concerning. But I think like is he one of those guys that I think at the beginning of this year when he was coming in before the Avs signed all these guys, you were kind of looking at him like, oh, he's got an outside shot here, maybe a wide outside shot. But is it possible? Sure, anything is. I think he needs a solid year with the Eagles before I think he really makes a move. And then coupled with all these moves that the Avalanche made, he's got a lot of people to jump right now. And I don't think he can jump them yet. But could he? Yeah, I think he could be asked at some point in the season, hey, here's a couple games. Let's see what you can do. Is he ready to take the reins of a pairing right now? No. But is it possible? Sure it is. I think they wouldn't have taken him otherwise.
Yeah, and when it comes to his development, it's about where you want it to be and projected to be. And it's almost like he's kind of got himself to where he needs to be, but he needs to make that Cogliano kind of like transition to his game. Like, how can I take my talents and help the team? He knows he can hold his own, but is that going to be enough to make the NHL roster and stay on the NHL roster with such a talented roster top to bottom? It's remained to be seen yet. Like, he has potential.
Sure.
He could hold his own, which is great, but there are so many minor league teams in the league right now of players that can do exactly that. He's got to do just show something to make that next step, to make yourself stand out. And I think that's where he's sitting right now. And that's what I want to see going into this year.
Yeah, how are you going to stand out above the guys that are kind of above you right now? It might be tough to do this year, but I think, like I said, like and when you come from a program, I always like guys that come from programs that win,
Yeah.
because that they come in with the expectation, like, I want to continue winning. So when you do that, and with the University of Denver, where he came from, like that's all they did there was win. So I think that bodes well for him in some capacity, but in the end, it's like, what are you doing on the ice?
Yeah.
We don't know yet. We don't know how he's going to play at this level. I think he's got a shot. I think he definitely has a shot. But again, I don't think it's going to be this year. Maybe he sniffs a couple games here and there. But for the future, I think they do have a role for him, and I think he could live up to that role. So we'll have to just wait and see. So
yeah, because I mean, it doesn't matter what you do in college. If you can't make it work for the Avalanche, you're going to get traded out of here like Ben Myers.
Right. Exactly. So, all right, let's get our last break in. We come back, a couple more questions, including what game do we have circled on the calendar, and why is hockey our sport? Very simple question, but a loaded answer maybe. So we'll get to that after this. All right, let's dive back into a couple more questions that we have here. Coy asks, what is the one game that both of you are circling on your calendar? What is the one game that's standing out to you right now when it comes to the Avalanche season?
Well, this is one of those questions you can ask me every day of the week, and you might get a different answer every day.
That's true.
I'm
That's
a very emotional guy. But right now, it'd be easy to say, and it's what I'm going to go with right now, especially with everything bubbling around.
Mm-hmm.
November 29th, Dallas Stars in
Okay.
Dallas. It starts the beginning of a back-to-back, and this is, again, for everybody keeping score at home, November 29th. There should be two names on this roster around November 29th. And you're facing off against Dallas, the team that sent you home.
Yeah.
And this is a back-to-back. Starting off in Dallas, going back home to play Edmonton. Connor McDavid coming into ball. Like, this is going to be a big game. And it's going to be a tone setter, and it's going to answer a lot of questions. And it'll be the answer to what does this team look like this year? November 29th against Dallas is your answer.
So you think that could be the game where everybody's back? That's like the first game where you got Landeskog back, you got Nichushkin back, and we will see the Avs in full for the first time. Like, that could be that game.
Yeah, it'll be the members missing. I don't know what the injury reports look like by the time we get there.
Yeah.
But those that have been missing for a while will be back for that game, and it's going to be a little bit like overinflated because it could be around the time Landy's return. But could you imagine the return of Nichushkin in Dallas against Dallas?
See, yeah. For whatever reason, I wasn't even putting that connection together.
It's
wow.
It's going to be a big game,
and that's in Dallas. That will if that's his first game back, that's going to be a hostile environment for him. Good Lord, wow. Good one. I'm cheating here. I got three. Well, one is January 26th in New York against the Rangers, because I'm going to that one at MSG, so I have to circle that one. And then the other two are against the same team, so I mean, it's not totally cheating, but one is the first one's at their barn, and that is November 2nd in Nashville. Because I think Nashville is wanting to play the teams like Dallas and the Avalanche, and even maybe expand it into the whole Western Conference, against Edmonton and Vancouver, and show their worth against the top teams, but specifically for their division. I don't know. I don't have the Predators in schedule in front of me. I'm sure that they play division teams, through October. I don't know if they play Dallas or anything like that. But this is their first game against the Avalanche, and it's in their arena. First game in November. They're going to want to show up, and they're going to show you up, and I think it'll work. I think that's going to be a tough game for the Avalanche to win. But you fast forward 9 days, and it's back in ball. So I want to see those two games. I want to see that first game where Nashville is going to be up and ready, and I think that might be an ugly game for the Avalanche because you don't have those guys that you were just talking about. They probably won't be back then. Maybe Landeskog will be back then around that time. Who knows? But I think it'd be a tough game. And then fast forward another week, and you're back at Ball. And what's the response by the Avalanche? So I think those first 2 games against that opponent are going to be kind of like a trendsetter for the season for the division. We'll see how it goes.
It's funny you mentioned Nashville because my honorable mention.
Yep.
You talked about this series in 9 days. How about fast forward to February 22nd? That's in Nashville, right after the Four Nations tournament.
Oh, that is the first game. Oh, man.
And remember when the wheels
terrible.
fell off for the Avalanche last year?
Yeah.
It's coming back from the All-Star break, and it's like that team just couldn't get it together. What is this team with all the hype, your possible Landy return, your possible Nuke return? You might have answers by what your goalie looks like. By the beginning of February, you know what this team looks like and how it's going to be built. Then you tell them to stop. Yeah. And then resume play in Nashville against Nashville.
And not only that, like, yeah, you have 2 weeks off for this thing. And you got to play somebody when you come back, right? But not only playing Nashville, fine. You're playing a back-to-back.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 2 weeks off, and then here's a back-to-back for you. A road back-to-back, nonetheless. You're at Nashville, and then you're at St. Louis. Thanks, Gary.
Never.
Not complaining about that. And I think the Avs schedule is okay this year, believe it or not. I do. I don't think it's like horrible. I mean, you have all your back-to-backs. Everybody does. That's a bad piece of scheduling right there. That's maybe the worst part of the scheduling right there.
Yeah, to quote the wise prophet Admiral Akbar, it's a trap.
Yeah. Wow. All right. A couple more fun ones here. We have Madam Battleaxe says, if you could be the GM of any team, would you rather be the GM of a rebuild or of a dynasty franchise?
Oh, give me a rebuild all day long.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'd rather the rebuild because then if the rebuild becomes the dynasty, then that's all because of you.
Yeah.
Right. Or, take like Toronto. Toronto's a perfect example here. They're the New York Yankees of hockey. Right. And the expectation is, even though they haven't won one in 50 some odd years, the expectation is like, we're expecting to be great year in and year out. And if you're not, you're out the door. So if you come into that situation, you're expected to pick up where the other guy left off and exceed it. And you're not given a lot of time to do that. It's like, you better do it within 3 years or we're going to start looking at you weird. Go to, we always go to Utah now, right? When you talk about stuff like this, they're a little bit more lenient. They want to win, sure, but they'll allow you to build the team you want to build, hire the people you want to hire, and not have just this weight on your back like it would be. But the other people look at it as like, no, that's a challenge for me to go to Toronto or something like that. And I appreciate that too. But I think there's just more something to be said of starting on the ground floor, number 1 pick in the draft. You nail that pick, build around that guy. And then to go from that to a Stanley Cup winning team, that has got to be so much more satisfying than walking into a $1 billion franchise that just says we're already, we have all the resources, just, use them at your disposal. I think it's just a world of difference between the two.
Yeah, and like growing up when I played the EA Sports hockey games, that's what I used to do because I'm superstitious about picking Avalanche to be the franchise owner. I'd always pick the worst team and put them together and try and see if I could make it to the Stanley Cup. If not in that first year, the second or third. And there's just something about like that being your fingerprint. Like, because of the moves I made, we made the Stanley Cup. Because then you get the Bednar effect of, if I inherit Florida, Vegas, Colorado, and we win the Stanley Cup, it's not me. It's not the things I did. It's the team. Of course, this is what they do. They should do this. Right. So I'd rather it be me taking over San Jose and winning a Stanley Cup in 3 years, and then I'd be on the cover of ESPN magazine.
Yeah, definitely. And kind of goes in. We were just discussing it. Burgundy Yeti said, "What makes you love hockey? Why hockey?" And man, this is a loaded question. We probably do a half hour on this alone. We've talked about why we got into like podcasting and stuff like that. Not that long ago, we talked about how we started hosting this show. But why is like hockey? To me, man, like I really genuinely feel like this is like the best sport out there.
Yeah.
And I answered him, and I said, like, for one, it's just the action is nonstop. Every second that is ticking away on the clock, stuff is happening. You know, even when the camera angle is showing a guy like someone's got the puck behind the net, and but what's going on is like changes are happening. You know what I mean? Like line changes are happening, and there's always nobody's just standing around like an NBA game. Nobody. And nobody's complaining every 2 seconds that they didn't get a foul called on them. And it's nonstop action. And then when you get to like a sudden death moment, those are where this sport just takes off. There, like no other sport can match an overtime, sudden death, next score wins situation like hockey can. Because every other sport, there's a build up to it. Like football, there's a drive that happens, a 12-play drive that happens. Baseball, it could, home run, sure, it could happen. But the split second reactions in hockey, where it can just go from a turnover to a goal that ends a game or a season, it can happen in the blink of an eye, and it can be demoralizing, or it can lift you up like and you're floating in the clouds. There's no sport that matches the excitement that can bring from a hockey game.
Like, and for hockey, for me, like growing up in the South, like I spent 30 years of my life down in the South, and they nicknamed me Hockey Jesus because I would literally be like, I'd have to talk to college football fans. They would talk about college football. I'll say, but have you tried hockey? And I would literally take like the physicality of the football you love, the strategy and lineup management like baseball, how you run the plays in real time like in basketball, all that incorporated on the ice with everybody on blades. You have the sport of hockey. All of your favorite little things that you enjoy about your other sports can be found in the game of hockey, with gladiators on blades going at incredible speeds, doing incredible feats of physicality and just style and how they accomplish it. It's the most beautiful game to watch, beginning to end. If you have no experience with the game or a seasoned fan, you can appreciate every moment of every game because of the fine details of the sport.
I think the hardest things in sports are to hit 101 mile an hour fastball and play hockey as a whole. You know what I mean? Like any other sport, it's you can dribble a ball, you can shoot a ball, maybe not well, but you can do it. You can give anybody a basketball and say, go shoot at that thing. They'll make an attempt. You put skates on someone, say go out there and skate. That alone might be a challenge. And now I'm going to introduce this vulcanized rubber disc and a stick and try to navigate through guys that are going Mach 10. Have fun. And then shoot it in a goal where this guy's got pads and, he's almost as big as the goal. It's an insanely difficult sport. And the way that the guys play it at the speed they play it to make it look as effortless as they do it's poetry in motion. And there's nothing that compares to it.
Yeah. The hardest thing in sports is to hit a 101 mile an hour fastball. We'll put on some pads and take a 101 mile an hour slap shot at least 5 to 10 times a game. That's part of your job.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you're traded out.
So we figured we could throw that one out there because it is getting to be the beginning of the season. And I'm sure more people are going to be coming around that haven't joined us in the past and just kind of give a little bit of reasons as to why we do what we do and why we watch the sport that we love to watch. So, so we're going to wrap it up with that one. We got some more questions that we'll get to throughout the week. I know we're going to have I think it's coming out next week. We're going to have a division show with hosts from the other shows within the Central Division. I think it's coming out next week. And pretty sure we are going to have Adrian Dater on Locked On Avalanche on Thursday. supposedly heading into his last season covering the Avalanche. So we'll have him on to discuss all that fun stuff. So, all right. So that's going to wrap it up for today. So thank you everybody for tuning in and making this your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. He is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We'll see you guys later.